Hello everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to another video. This is an interview video I have with me, KK of Altair, and a couple other groups that he was also part of, Alien Senses, I believe, Vectronics, and a few other groups. I guess now you're just in Altair currently?
Uh, It depends on how you count it, because the Altair is the only active group I'm in and I'm releasing.
Okay, fair enough. So, how are
And
you doing, KK?
there was DMA also.
DMA, yes, DMA. You are also very active in DMA for quite a few years. So how are you doing? Great to meet you because I haven't met you in person, I think, ever. Did you ever come to Revision? I don't think I've met you.
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, so
Well,
2024, I hope.
hopefully, well, Easter in Poland is one of the
Complicated.
no. Yes, it's complicated. It's Poland is quite religious country, and we are supposed to be with families and
Yeah, that's what I do. That's why I go to
sharing
sim
and caring.
parties every year.
Yes, but
But yeah, I understand. Anyway,
but
so
hopefully I'd love to come to revision, especially if I manage to whip up some 64K intro, because that would
oh yeah,
be
that would be
lovely.
great. It promises that it's going to be an interesting compo this coming year because all the Japanese people have been doing so many 64K stuff, and I think maybe Logicom and Conspiracy will be doing something again. So I think 2024 will be another hit year for 64Ks. Uh, so yeah, I wanted to do an interview because you have a quite interesting scene background. You are very much into shader coding, but you're also very much into retro platforms overall as well. Like you do a lot of stuff for Atari and stuff like that. So I thought it was really interesting because normally sceners do either one or the other. They don't do both at the same time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about you and how did you first get into the demo scene and why are you interested into both of these things at the same time? So tell us a little bit about how did you get into the demo scene?
Okay, into the actual demo scene I got in 2005 when K. Krieger was released, and it was all over the place. And basically, K. Krieger leaked out of the demo scene into the popular mainstream media and was covered by magazines and basically every single outlet
Hmm.
of news. So I noticed that there is something like a demo scene, and it's actually cool. Well, I definitely wanted to do stuff like that, and got into reviewing what the actual stuff was. And Farbrush was very active in interesting back then with the product Candytron and all the 64K releases they made. But so, and I was digging around how to make stuff like that. I was already interested in graphics and coding stuff since my early ages. I started on Commodore 64 and then was coding on Amiga in Amos because I was teenager back then. Especially when Doom came out, I was instantly hooked up from the coding perspective, how to make stuff like that. So here is my background, why I'm interested in
Uh,
graphics, coding,
are you
and
from
hacking.
computer science background? Do you study computers?
Yes, I did. But when I got to study computer science, I was already pretty experienced.
Hmm.
So this is just and this added just a touch. I was in my even in my primary school when Doom came out, I was hooked up, so I wanted to make stuff like that.
Yeah,
Of
that
course,
sounds a little bit familiar. How did
yes.
you get? I wanted to ask you this specific question. How did you get into Vectronics? Because it's such a weird group. It's like a remake of a group, but with modern people and a lot of Russians, and then you
Yes.
seem to be the only Polish
Okay.
people there.
Yes. Yes. It's actually very connected to how I entered in the team, because I knew the K Krieger, and at the same time, Farbrush was using Werkzeug 3, and they released Werkzeug 1 for free. So I started Googling about it and found the vectronics.org forums, which were created by Sleepy. or if I remember the handle correctly, it was one of the original Vectronics members, and he created a portal. For it was a PHPBB forum that was dedicated to the demoscene stuff, but primarily a hub for Werkzeug 1 users. New users that found out what Werkzeug 1 is and wanted to share stuff, create stuff, and he made it under umbrella of his demo group, old demo group Vectronics. I even to this point, I don't know what they released before. Yes.
It's amazing.
And guys around the, excuse me, guys around there started creating some simple scenes, experimenting with Werkzeug 1. And at the same time, I was also trying the same stuff with them. But as I was a coder, I still am, I was interested in making stuff like that and started experimenting with making some simple demo tools and for small forms of intros.
This leads me to the next question that I had.
Yes.
So you started coding your own stuff, and then eventually you made a 4K remake of Chaos Theory, which in itself is already a 64K.
Actually, if I can finish this thought, because it's quite interesting story. So I at the time I was wanted to move to DirectX from OpenGL. So started my first project, which was DX Test 1, I remember that it was called, and coded it, and eventually it became a 64K demo tool. This project was actually called like that. And started sharing with the guys with the idea that we can make a demo. On the Vectronics forum, everybody submits some effects on this demo tool, and we release it somewhere. And it happened that this release was done under the name of Vectronics. And the guy who made most contributions to the scenes that were in this, it was VX Post intro, 64K intro. And the guy who made most contributions to it, by chance, was also entering this scene at the same time. It was Unz. That was
UNC from Quite.
UNC, yes, later from Quite, but his first demo was with me on Vectronics, on my demo tool, and we stayed in touch for quite a long time. After they released their first demo, we even talked about Ray marchings. I personally taught UNC Ray marching over Skype. So that really that cool. Was how our both demoscene career started.
That's a really amazing, because it's like we, as veteran demosceners, we don't really have this perception of how much impact, releasing just a random tool that we don't even use anymore can have on new generations that become, obsessed with that and then try to build their own. So that's like you and UNC became such known people in the demo scene after a few years after that. So it's really interesting to see that step up. I wanted to ask you about Chaos Theory 4K, because for me it was when I heard your name more, when I started realizing, okay, some guys on Poland are doing some interesting stuff. So when you made this 4K demake of Chaos Theory, I guess you were a fan of Chaos Theory and you realized that it could be squeezed somehow into 4K. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the making of process of Chaos Theory 4K?
Okay, well, I was already experimenting a bit with stuff, but yes, I was experimenting with. Back then, the 4K demo scene was very different because GPUs didn't have so much power to push the shaders. But, well, no, actually, they started to have, but it started to look a bit blunt with the same ray traced and reflecting.
People still use triangles in 4K.
Yes, I sticked to triangles for quite a long time. because while it takes away some shading like reflections and stuff and smooth shapes and has a bit more code to it, I stayed with triangles because they just to be different. And I actually figured out that most of the scenes from chaos theory were quite simple to do in triangles. So I made this very simple tool that was reading constantly one text file and changing for updates. And it had tons of different vertex shaders and maybe one or two pixel shaders or several ones. And it was that simple. It was just going through a list of draw calls and calling different shaders with different parameters that were set up for each scene. And actually, each scene was just a bunch of flags, duration, and number of cameras. So each scene was 3 bytes in in this each camera take.
Wow, because you had the whole engine behind it, yeah.
The calling it engine is quite overstatement.
Framework.
Framework. Yes, it was coded in assembly in DirectX 9, and it was going just through a list of shaders. The shaders used simple inclusion, so I could define keywords, and these keywords were including different parts of shaders, and on top of that were bit masks.
And you did the music for that as well.
Yes, I did even the synth for that as well.
Wow, that's crazy. Like a one-man show. Like that's not very common nowadays in the demo scene, but that's really cool. That's really cool to see.
I didn't have too much contact, so I had to do myself. Well, it was actually the case, for example, with the DMA demo group, and right now Altair feels the same a bit, because when I joined demo scene, I wanted to be in some demo group, and at this time I seen one of the Polish scene was very inactive at the time. With demo parties mostly probably drinking and watching stuff and getting crazy. Even in Poland, the only active compo was 60 seconds demo.
There were no long form demo compos?
There were, but there were no demos at the time. Just people weren't releasing anything.
Yeah, there was a bit of a lower period on Polish scene for a while. On these recent years, it seems to have picked up a lot, which is really interesting.
Yeah, yes, the recent years are crazy. We have tons of quality releases, and with a lot of stuff getting noticed even by Meteorix and winning and stuff like that.
But we'll get to that. Let's
okay. But basically, when I noticed one demo group that was releasing something, and I joined them, and they
that was Altair
releasing. That was DMA.
No, it was DMA. Okay.
That was I was constantly releasing often on the DMA label just to get noticed and hopefully starting receiving greetings from other groups as DMA, and it was my goal at the time.
Okay, that's a good goal to go for. I wanted to talk about WeCan 2013 for two different reasons. The first one is because I have that livecodedemozoo.org project where we try to keep all the information about all the live coding events from the demo scene, and we keep missing information about WeCan 2013. Like, we know it happened, we know it was the first time people did live shader coding stuff there. You were one of the finalists. ProVod was the other one who ended up winning. We don't know who the other people participating were. So do you have any memory of it whatsoever?
Definitely there was Reg. I remember Kiero participating, and Lovely Hannibal.
Okay, so we have at least 3 more names that we can add to the list. That's at least something. I wish someone had like recorded it, but at the time, I guess 2013 was not very common to live stream and record all the party stuff.
Yes,
which is a shame. How was that participation, being on the first ever live shader coding for you? How was can you compare it with nowadays, how it was before?
Oh, well, it was crazy. It was slower, much slower, I think, because we had half an hour for each round, and we got code from one round passing to the another. So I remember Provot was in the first stage, I think, with Reg, when Reg coded a lot of 2D stuff, and Provot had just one sphere but had framework ready, because, well, right now people are memorizing the code, so they have framework ready in 5 minutes, I believe. And it was not like that back then. It was half an hour of trying to code something, trying to remember basic stuff, debugging. And I remember after the first stage, it was actually a story that people are passing on the Polish demo scene, because we had FFT input, which was very unusable, and we had this MIDI input that was controlled manually by 4x4 pads or something like that, and there was expected one person that were hitting these pads to the rhythm, but for maybe it was at the beginning but not at the end, because nobody was even using that texture.
No one was using it. That's
yes,
awesome.
so this person felt it was pointless to touch anything if it has no
if
effect.
no one is using the MIDI, why am I doing a live VJ to nothing?
Yes, but well, it was, I believe, 5 minutes to the end of the first stage, and I had a sphere in a tunnel, and I wanted to animate something, so I put this texture as a displacement map that was expecting to spike this sphere and to tint the spikes to red. But I used this texture and nothing was happening. I looked at the stage and there was nowhere on these controls anymore, because, well, I don't think anybody would try to hit pointlessly stuff that no one is using for 25 minutes just to. So I jumped on the stage and started testing it, and it worked. I just wanted to test, but everybody thought that I was so confident in that I did my job that I jumped on the scene just to make a show.
Just want to VJ now. My job is done.
Yeah, yes, and I had this 4x4 pads, and it did work. So I thought, okay, people are cheering, so I'm just pushing stuff, and the spikes are going out, and this is how I remember the first stage.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great, because I mean, I wasn't there. There was no live stream. I have no knowledge of this story, so it's great to hear that. It's really funny. Oh my god. How do you think things, like, are they more accessible now, or are they harder to get into in terms of live shader coding stuff? Because you've been participating. I think you participated at Xenium this year as well, didn't you?
Yes. In Poland, they are harder to get into.
Because you have to memorize everything? Is that the main barrier?
No, because from the organizer perspective, the requirements are very high. That you need 2 identical high-end PCs to run such a thing, and almost all parties in Poland have no sponsors. Basically, they live off entry fee, and they just make ends meet, and there are no sponsors, because most parties in Poland want to be free from ads and external influence, and just want to do their own thing. So they don't have outside control and stuff. But it also means that there is no way to get to identical modern PCs and hook it up. Yes, that is the problem. So it's totally inaccessible in Poland, because I don't think there is a single shader showdown elimination on any party in Poland. So
I think that was the elimination thing that was supposed to be for like the roundup, and then you would go to revision or the showdown. It was mostly doing like 2018, mostly promoted by Havoc, and he was like actively going to different demo parties, taking the computers that he had from revision orgas, I believe. he had computers. He would take them with him to the different parties and try to round up to different people. So he made it as a service to have the machines as well available to the party, which was really useful. As you just said, like for Poland, it would have been really useful to have that as well. But then again, it's the same problem. You have to travel everywhere to take the machines there. At Revision this year, we rented machines for like just 2 3 days just to have those machines ready there. But yeah, and with the cost of graphics cards going so high, it's really hard to be able to afford that as a party organizer, right?
It depends on what graphics card do you want to use.
Mhm.
It's because I'm making everything on my 5-year gaming laptop, which has GeForce 980 mobile, and I'm pretty fine with it.
Yeah, it's not high end, but you can still do stuff with it. Yeah,
It was high end when it came out, but or maybe even not, because it was one revision behind, because they were heavily discounted.
I just got a second-hand 3080 RTX Ti for 400 euros, which I thought was pretty decent for the specs that it is. So they're starting to become affordable if you don't go for, the latest cutting
Definitely.
edge and aim for, 2 3 years back. I think they are starting to become affordable. Anyways, let's move on because we have some time constraints. Where the hell did you get the interest to code on the Atari VCS of all things?
Okay. Well, the answer is very simple.
You had one as a kid?
No, I had Commodore.
Wow.
Atari was
That's
very
even weirder.
popular.
How the hell did you get into Atari? Please, I'll let you speak. Sorry.
Because I have demo party at in my city.
Was that
I
Silly
live in
Venture?
Gdańsk. Yes, Silly Venture is happening in Gdańsk. I'm living in Gdańsk, in Poland. So, well, it's a pity not to attend a demo party that's just at your city every year. And I started attending without making something is, well, it's fun, but it's always funnier than when you actually make something. So yes, that's how I get into Atari demoscene. I didn't consider Atari at any point before, because I was raised on Commodore 64 and Amiga 5 and 600 actually, but this is almost the same as 500. So these two were my two beloved retro platforms. But well, when I was going to go to Atari demo party, I started looking what hardware did they have, and I already heard about Atari VCS before as something very crazy and very simple and beautiful in its design. And well, it was my platform of choice to make my first Atari demo.
And how was
Because
it learning the Atari? Did you had any help from the active Atari scene, or did you learn it yourself?
no, I
What
had help.
resources?
I had enough help from internet, which means I just mean documentation. There is a lot of documentation, and actually compared to any other stuff that is there, it's very simple platform.
Nice.
Everybody tells that coding for it is hard, but well, it's just you just have to get accustomed to counting
Yeah.
cycles and stuff like that. But other than that, it's a very very simple hardware. So, well, I worked for several years, but after it. But I was always interested in hardware, in playing with Arduinos and other processors from my high school or something. But actually, even starting on Commodore 64 felt like that, because to get anything done in Commodore Basic, you instantly had to poke all registers, because Basic was very insufficient to do anything beyond printing text.
Yeah, I remember the same pains on the ZX Spectrum. Chiphead. Let's talk about Chiphead. So in 2016, you released this demo, which was like a demake of one of the most famous PC demos. And you got crazy amount of praise because it was so funny and such a good idea. How the hell did you get the idea to do a version for the Atari?
Music, basically music.
Ah.
I made VST to make and with export and player for Atari VCS that had some features that were able to blend several different waveforms to have a teeny bit higher frequency resolution because Atari plays everything out of tune. So when I heard and seen Zip Head, I was quite inspired by the music there, and noticed that this intro where there are some pings with huge echo. The echo was based on these triplets or just well, it's one of the basic effects that if you put the delay of these 3 times 16th notes or something like that, these notes start this echo starts pointing where there are no other notes. So basically you just can get away with all this stuff on one channel. So I wanted to try it, how it would sound on Atari VCS that I was making these echo patterns and stuff like that. And one funny thing is that I noticed that for in this initial intro part of this music, by some weird chance, Hoffman used almost only the notes that actually are in tune on VCS, except one, but they all were almost all were in tune, which is very rare for even one note, let alone for 7 or something like maybe not 7, but 4 of them were in tune. One was slightly out of tune. So I started this intro pattern, and it actually sounded well. So I was okay. There are some hard hitting glitches and stuff like that, which is ideal for VCS. Okay, let's make some more patterns of it. And when I made to the first drop and a bit music, I thought, okay, it sounds nice for the VCS. So well, let's make a demake.
That was crazy. It was so good to see that. It was like, how the hell is this even like?
Yes, but it started with music. The music turned out so good for VCS that I had to make visuals.
Yeah, that was one of the
with
things
the
because
demake.
when you're used to that Atari chip, you hear so many tracks and you think it can't sound this good. It's not possible. But it's what you just described, like all those small details that really matter a
Actually,
lot.
my VST has 4 tracks in it because it uses priority. So you can play one bass note on the secondary track or first channel and still play drums, and the drums would just take only the frames that they are hitting. So if I use very short, like 3 of frames for the kick and 1 frame for hi-hat, it instead of sounding like cutting out the bass, it just sounds like ducking. So it's actually using these frames and making the classical sign chaining effect. And it's quite easy to program having it on 2 channels compared to, for example, what people on other trackers do, that they make different versions of the same instrument, just starting with different drum.
Mhm.
So it was quite easy in my system.
I remember some of those tricks from the 4-channel Amiga stuff, and I guess on the Commodore 64, the people on the SID also abuse those tricks a lot.
A lot of.
Yeah. Wanted to talk about the Dread engine as well, because you got some massive popularity out of that as well. Not on the demo scene, outside the demo scene, because Dread is one of the Doom clone engines or Wolfenstein engine that's like highly optimized in terms of frame rate. So tell us a little bit about the technicalities of Dread, why you decided to make it. I guess you were a fan of Doom, obviously, but why did you decide to do for retro platforms in particular? And then you did Amiga and you did Atari version as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes. Well, I decided to do it 20 years ago when I was even in primary school. Basically, it was back then it was a dream of every Amiga fanboy that let's make 3D FPS shooter on Amiga and make it not suck. But well, I was back then I was having Amiga 600 and was playing Death Mask, the Citadel, and Behind the Iron Gate. But each of these three games lacked something, and actually lacked a lot compared to Doom, even to Wolfenstein. And so it was even back then a dream, and we, with my brother who was into making graphics, had this name for it, and the name Dread is just a shortened version of how it was, because it was meant to be called Dread Zone, but in Polish, of course. And this is actually connected to the current Dread. But how it came to be, there was a happening load error party also in Gdańsk, and I wanted to make a demo for Amiga because it was retro party, and I always loved Amiga, how Amiga demos looked like, and wanted to finally make something. So I coded two effects. One was the glitchy blitter rotozoomer, and the other I wanted to make Wolfenstein clone, just the flyby for the demo, and this demo was called Wildcat. And this Wolfenstein clone was running pretty nicely. So basically, so are you with me?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, because for a moment I thought I lost you. So this Wolfenstein clone was running with over 10 FPS, and I started wondering why nobody written Wolfenstein by then. Later I noticed there were some tech demos, but not a game. But well, okay, so if Wolfenstein worked like that, I wanted to try to get a bit higher with it, so started considering a Doom clone. And actually making it, optimizing and using all the algorithms that I knew of that were available. So the Dread has a lot of stuff pre-calculated. It uses scaling from this Toy Story game that was released on Mega Drive back then. You can look up this algorithm. Basically, it's very everything is unrolled in different versions, and we have Dread has almost 100 kilobytes of pre-computed code that just draws walls in different scales, and using just one instruction per logical pixel.
So you're a bit limited in terms of the textures that you can use, or is that like a mapping system that then you can apply it to different?
This is mapping system. This is mapping system. It's just a list of move from certain offset pointer plus offset, and just the offsets are hard coded, and it uses self-modifying code to just cut different part. It's puts a return in one place, jumps to another place, and just draws part of this line. But it uses some, I think, cool chunky to planar tricks. Some of them I invented, I believe. That nice. I managed to cut out one of the passes of chunky to planar by interleaving bytes by using stack register on Amiga, because stack register of Amiga is a bit peculiar, because if you push a byte, it increments by 2 bytes, which already saves one pass of chunky to planar, because with proper setup, the bytes are interleaved of different columns, and they already are put into place. So just 2 blitter passes are enough to make sure everything else fits.
Nice.
And well, actually, I put there every single trick I thought that would speed up things. And for example, I'm pre-computing everything I can in this case. So every map is just huge BSP tree, and on every leaf there is perfectly sorted pre-compute visibility. So just Amiga descends to the tree and knows exactly what walls should be drawn in what order, just to and front to back. So every pixel is drawn.
It's already sorted. Yeah, it's really
yes,
cool.
already sorted. Yes, and it turned out that the problem initially, because initially Dread was meant to be a full DOM, it still is meant to, but the line setup for every vertical column was very costly. So I thought that it won't work and limited everything just to 3 ceiling levels and 1 floor level, which is how Dread mostly looks like, because everything is pre-computed. So for each distance, I have pre-computed basically multiplication and division tables for each of these ceiling heights. But and this is what Dread is using in currently in its main version, and this is when Grind, another project that uses Dread engine, branch off. But
the grind game, yeah, that's they
Grind,
have their
yes.
own Patreon and everything, and just based
Yes.
off your engine, but then customizing it and doing its own maps and stuff like that.
Basically, I was working with John Sakiris, Zach, together on Dread, but we had to part ways because of my new job and non-competition agreements. So he took his work to continue, because I also can't monetize Dread. I shut down my Patreon and told everyone to go support Grind.
Okay.
So it's not that it's a competition. Basically, this is commercial evolution of Dread.
But Dread itself
you can look
is open source, right? Or am I mistaken there?
I just dropped on my last day of previous work. I dropped everything I had on Dread on my GitHub page, just to be clear that nobody ever prevents me from releasing that. So yes, but actually Dread is not open source by itself, but it has a source drop from this moment before I took my job.
Because but other people can use it, or they would have to license it somehow, or have some sort of licensing agreement with you.
I didn't put any license there, but well, just contact me if you want to do something with it.
How can people do it then if there's no license? Like, they will be infringing whatever they pick it up on.
I didn't think so far about it, but just if anybody wants to do something with it, just contact me. And
have you heard of any other projects besides of Grind Game to use the engine?
No,
because you got a lot of like news items also on different retro platforming stuff. Like, whoa, finally, Wolfenstein clone that runs full frame rate on Amiga.
Well, 10 FPS is not full frame rate, but still high enough to be playable. Well, yes. Basically, it's covered. Dread and Grind is covered so vast because I don't think they have competition on Amiga 500.
There's still a lot of game development for the retro platforms, though. Even like Amiga, Commodore 64, Spectrum.
Yes,
I still see a lot of small teams doing games.
But I mean in terms of FPS.
Yeah.
There was one Wolfenstein clone released at Revision. It was Project something. I don't remember it, but it had
is that for Amiga as well?
For Amiga 500, yes. I don't remember right now how it was called, but it was also nice. But in terms of performance and features, in Amiga 500 FPS games, basically Dread is outclassing everything else.
That's what was amazing. Everybody, like, you put so many optimizations on it. That's really astonishing. So congratulations on that work.
And one thing that I have also in my cupboard, a version of Dread that supports full floor and ceiling heights and actually runs like 5% slower, and so this will eventually be going to mainline on Dread.
Oh,
And
still
so
optimizing stuff.
uh, yes, basically, since the first method based on lookup tables, I had one breakthrough or several ones that enabled it. I still don't have implemented collisions properly for different floor and ceiling levels, as well as sprite clipping. So this is still some work to do, and I don't currently have too much time. But eventually, I think Dread is going to have become very close to how Doom liked.
Nice. Looking forward to seeing that eventually. I wanted to talk about the state of the Polish demo scene right now, because there are quite still a few parties happening. There's at least 5 parties in Poland every year. Silly Venture, which happens twice a year even, D-Crunch, Lost Party, Spec EPL dedicated to the Spectrum, and Xenium, which is, I think Xenium is the only overall, like, not focused on a single platform sort of party, including PC, let's call it that. The other ones are
Yes.
more retro focused, from what I remember. Tell us a little bit about how the Polish scene has been evolving. We talked a little bit earlier about that, but please, can you compare it, how it was and how it's going, and how you foresee it in the future?
Well, I started going to demo parties only since 2009, when it was already getting a bit active. But it was natural evolution, I think, that I'm talking about PC demo parties, which was when I started going, it was Riverwash. There were 2 editions of WeCan, then Riverwash again, and finally Xenium. So it was natural evolution that there was, when I got there, there was already something releasing. Some intros, some demos, even some 64Ks. And it was natural evolution that people got interested in. I didn't interview everybody that make new stuff, so to know where they came from, because some new people were coming, some old timers were also coming. Some people were switching because Kero was already active on Amiga, and just recently he switched to his interests to PC. And so it was natural growth.
In terms of attendance, do you see more people, the same number of people?
Oh, it depends on party and it's waving. So it was basically growing until the pandemic happened, where
Yeah.
it got a bit of setback, but it's growing again, I
How
think.
was
And
Xenium this year compared to the previous editions before pandemic?
I think a bit smaller, but
Okay.
it was, I think, smaller or comparable. I'm not sure we hit 200, but well, it was very nice party.
Okay. In
The
terms of
num
releases, it was
it
a really good party. But I was curious in terms of attendance, like if there are new people coming in, or if it's, just the same people, with some people sometimes coming back in after a couple of decades of inactivity, or if there is any new
some
folks.
people are definitely coming, because I definitely have seen some new faces. But well,
Nice.
I'm hanging mostly with my friends from all time, so I'm not counting everybody. But well,
Hmm.
it's in terms of releases, it's definitely very nice and getting better and better, because we have quite a number of active coders that are devoted to providing something, mostly PC demos for Xenium, or other parties are different stories, because each party has its own environment. For example, Silly Venture is really big in terms of Polish. Yes, it's quite big demo party, and it has amazing support when it comes to releases. It's basically a revision for Atari guys,
Hmm.
because
Yes, consider.
he it's constantly hitting 100 releases, and most of them are
They have
executables.
so many competitions, like competitions for all the different Atari
Yes,
subcategories of
yes,
stuff.
yes, and actually the mystery behind it is the Gray from Mystic Bytes, the organizer of the party, because he is very good communicator and very helping hand. That if you think about making something for Atari, he is very
Creates a
eager
combo for
to.
you.
uh, The compo is for everything. They have full matrix of all Atari platforms with all categories. So the compo for is always there. But for example, when I was busy coding Dread, I didn't have release for one edition of Silventure. I was thinking, okay, let's go cheap and port Dread to ST, because I'm doing almost all stuff on the CPU. So it was just maybe 5% of code to rewrite, and it was running. And when Gray reached out is to me, is everything okay? Do you need by chance something? I thought, okay, I don't have music. And he instantly contacted his contacts from the Atari Music demoscene and found DMA-SC, which made even, I believe, 2 pieces of music. Because when he discovered that I have many, he also wanted to make music for the menu. So basically, Gray is making sure that every group has all the talent field and connecting all the people, and basically enabling a lot of releases.
That's an important.
And yes, and he's very encouraging to just make something,
Yeah, that's
and
very
he's very
important
passionate. Yes,
role on as an organizer, because sometimes we get a bit accustomed as organizers that we just put it together and people will come and releases will just show up, but it's not often the case. Sometimes you have to really poke people. Are you working on something? Oh, it's already 1 month until the deadline. Are you sure you do? Do you need any help? Can I connect you
exactly,
with other people? And if
exactly.
you do that, it exponentially increases the probability of people releasing stuff.
Yes, and one also one side of very nice thing of City Venture is that City Venture has tons of supporters. Basically, when it comes to prize pool, people are sending boxes of stuff to City Venture, and you actually can sometimes snatch a nice piece of hardware.
Nice. You were also helping part of the organizing team for a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but I'm mostly often on a kind of
Just
helper.
participant.
So mostly participant, but I'm helping organize some stuff for Atari VCS, or sometimes with helping with the audio on the party place, or if something gets seriously broken, I think to figure it out and help. So
Okay.
it's kind of general help. I'm not as involved, for example, as Gray or people who are caring about the streaming or playing all the releases.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
if I'm needed, I'm there to help.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about Xenium then. 'Cause there were a lot of good releases, as we mentioned. The PC demo compo was really good. Like the top 3, 4 entries were really high quality. Damage did a really good entry. Mad Wizards did an insane entry. I thought they should have won even. Suspend also came back to activity. Food Tourist, they've been active a lot, and they also released a killer demo. Northfordin came back to activity, did something as well, and a lot of smaller demos as well. So really packed compo, which was really surprising for the Polish scene, which usually has 1, 2 good demos, and the rest are like sort of fast-made things. So this year was really, really high quality. What did you think of the top demos? Did you agree with the voting results, or do you have any stories to tell us about them?
Yes, I think I mostly agree because, well, uh, the first thing is that we have this internal friendship with all the coders. Uh, Back in the day, it was several years back then, we sat at the Xenium, or it was even Riverwash with Kiro, and he complained that he sometimes would like to talk with someone or share an article and have some high-level tech talk. And I came up with the idea that, okay, let's start a Discord server together and chat there, and let other people naturally come in, because I hope that if somebody hears that, hey, there is a server for Polish coders of demos, and Kiero and KK are hanging out there talking about graphic stuff, other people would swim in, and it actually happened. So
Nice.
it was actually a nice story. Just one day before, it was Thursday night, I believe, before this year Xenium party, I was sitting at a hotel. It was almost 5 a.m. and I was finishing the minimum release for my 4K that I released this year. And okay, I have something I wouldn't be ashamed to present. Let's check this Rendery Coders Polish Discord server. And of course, there was Bitter was posting several minutes before that he made something. And after me, I believe there was Shudi also posting that, okay, I'm done. So, and also with Kiera and Miklos, we are constantly hanging there and talking about stuff, showing different articles and inspiring each other and monitoring each other progress. Maybe not spoiling a lot, but just we are in constant touch. I would say so. It wouldn't, I think, matter who won, who took second place. So I'm very happy for Miklos and Damage Demo Group that they won, because I think it's a morale boost for them. And after years of inactivity, they started releasing PC production. So actually, PC Polish demo scene is growing this way.
Yeah. And this demo of them felt a lot more polished than the one that they did last year. They already had done a demo last year, but it felt like so rushed and just one scene pretty much. This one felt a lot more detailed on it and like thought put into it.
Oh, this is how it works. That you make something, you think about what went wrong, what went right, and you try to constantly make something better. Actually, the core of the competition on the scene is not competing with other people who are releasing by chance on the same party, because this is highly random. One year there are a lot of good releases, and the other Bitter can win revision just releasing compo filler, yes, which did happen.
Yes, I remember that. I didn't really like the demo, but I remember it happening.
Well, it was nice
a solid
to work.
demo. It was a solid demo.
Yes, it had a nice song, and it's actually a demo that you can return to. But well, as I view it myself, it's mostly competition between me and myself.
Yeah,
it's not that nobody is releasing. Yes, but I just want to make something better, something in different shape. For example, this year I didn't have any idea, but thought maybe let's do particles, and why nobody remarked particle positions so far. And it was just I'm trying to find some fresh idea that would be visually appealing, and just do something, and let's see how it goes.
How do you manage, like, that concept of constantly improving yourself is good. In theory, it seems good. A lot of sceners I heard of, they stopped releasing because they feel like it's way too much work now to improve yourself. So I'm not going to do anything. And now I'm not even going to the party because I don't have any productions. And you end up losing a lot of the talent. Like, it stops becoming part of the community because they put those hard limits on themselves, that I must constantly improve upon myself. Otherwise, I will have, people telling, your previous demo was better than it is now. So how do you, as a creator, how do you deal with that, or you haven't had to deal with that yet?
I don't deal with that because this is second on my priority list. The first thing on my priority list is actually releasing something. And in case of Xenium, Riverwash, and WeCan, and basically major PC demo party we have in Poland 1 year, I'm motivated enough just by having this run of submissions, because I think for 13 or 14 years I have always submitted something. Since then I was winning, but mostly because of before that, mostly because of lack of competition. But my priority is just to release something.
Nice.
I would like it to be better, but actually I prefer it to be something fresh and something that doesn't feel like I'm repeating myself.
What's your work process in terms of deadline, concept? When did you start working on the production, or are you constantly working on ideas?
No, I definitely start too late. I'm starting thinking. I'm thinking about production like 2 months before the party, but things usually get in the way because it's the vacation season, and we are traveling with family on vacations, and work life and stuff
Yeah,
happens.
it's complicated.
Yeah. So, but as the deadline is closing, the higher goes my motivation and feeling of urgency to actually do something. And I'm starting grabbing some different ideas and experimenting, and eventually something comes out. But I grew enough not to finish on the party.
You've learned to stop doing the
Wasting
party
entire
coding
party.
thing.
Yes, but it didn't prevent me from night coding the week before. This is probably some area for improvement.
Some people still do the party coding thing. They still haven't learned completely yet. But yeah.
It's very, very. I didn't basically see anyone party coding since several editions, because people actually started enjoying company instead of party
Mhm.
coding. So a lot of people get this into their heads, that they have the deadline not on the compo deadline, but just
Before.
before the party starts. So yes, this is also true for me, and I know that I won't get too much stuff done. Maybe some touches or late at night or something, or just planned Saturday morning at the hotel. But I try to have something presentable before the party even starts.
Mhm. Let's talk about the other entries that were released. There was this cute little 8K by Addict that got third place to Android stream about Rave. Cute, nice little modeling, so cute ideas, was pretty solid. And then Mercial and M Range, it was really good looking, a study of class 2. So that was quite some competition that you had there for the compo. What did you feel about these other two entries?
Just like you said, the androids were cute, but, but this glass thing, I didn't. No, basically, I'm not too into this slow and polished
You don't like
simple
ambience?
ambience. No, when it comes to the demo scene, I prefer dynamic demos that a lot of stuff is happening. And I didn't make too many like that myself, but well.
But your demo, some of your intros have this slow ambient space to it, though.
Yes, but it's
But you don't like them.
driven. It's driven mostly by musicians. So if I had a musician and they sent me a track for the demo which was slow, then so was the demo. But for example, it was the case with Dream Machine, that was having the ambient music, but was inspired by a Zero Day from Beeple, which was not ambience at all. So it was actually the music taking a direction.
Okay. So okay, but what did you think of Study of Glass 2 then? You were saying it, then I cut you
Yes,
off
it was nice, but I'm not the right kind of guy to
to enjoy it.
receive it properly. It was nice, and
But even
on
visually,
the
technically, it was pretty impressive.
Yes, but on the big screen, I didn't notice that it was technically impressive. I didn't notice that it had so many reflections and stuff like that. I just thought it was a cube with holes cut in there, and that was all. So I didn't appreciate it enough on the demo party. But it's very nice to see in competition, and I'm looking forward to the day I don't win the form.
That's a life goal for you. I'm so good. I wish someone would have done something better than me. I keep
No,
winning all the time.
that's no not my life goal, because if I wanted to achieve this goal, it would
Yeah, it will be
be
easy.
very easy. But that's my wish for the Polish demoscene and
Yeah,
Polish
yeah, that
parties.
would be really cool. Since you said that you're not an ambience fan, so what are your favorite demos overall? Like things that come to your head when you think about your favorite demo scene releases? Was it the ones that you made demakes of, or do you have, or not really?
Uh, well, the favorite demoscene releases. One of my favorite demoscene releases from back days is Enigma by Phenomena.
Ah,
It's
Amiga
retrospect.
fanboy. Yeah, you did have an Amiga, yeah.
Yes, I had to. If was basically destined to either love or hate this demo, because it was constantly playing when my parents had an RTV store, and there was sitting one Amiga constantly playing Phenomena by. And when it comes to newer releases, I basically love complex and dynamic stuff with nice music. So ASD, basically earlier
What
ASD demos ring this bell. And for example, one demo I remember nicely was Terminal 7 from Cocoon.
mm. What did you think of the new AST demo that was released at Assembly?
It has nice flow, catchy song, and definitely some kind of unusual atmosphere.
Did the technology impress you?
Technology was mostly known, so it's not. I think that it's a lot of scans, and scans are already present. It's hard to say. I'm probably coding more than watching stuff, so
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm not the right person to ask about other demos.
I
Okay.
mean, if you're a
And
coder, you can evaluate them. So overall, you must have some position in one way or another. Or I mean, at least you probably, when you look at the demo, you imagine the technical things behind it, no?
definitely, but can we move it on, because I'm out of time right now?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I guess that's it for the in terms of questions that we have
Yes,
actually. So
we can schedule another session if you'd like.
no, I think it's good. I think it's good. Thank you so much for your time, KK. It was great having you here. Thanks so much for your insight, and keep doing what you're doing. I've been loving your stuff. So yeah. Uh, bye bye everybody. I hope you enjoyed the
Bye.
interview. See you next time. Take
See
care.
you. Thanks.